I've been scoring deer for Buckmaster since about 2012, and in that time I scored a lot of deer, but they ain't nothing prepared me for what I got my hands on last night. James Goldman out of Sterling took a big one in Morehouse Parish this past week, and when I say big, I'm talking about crazy, non-typical points going everywhere. Now everybody said he's got about 40 points, but I took in last night, and all I did was measure last night. James wanted me to wait until he got in. He's been out of town before I tallied all my stuff up, so all I did was measure. I got a 35 scoreable points. Going to meet with James tonight. We're going to tally them up and see what we got. But guys, trust me, you want to look at this one. It's unbelievable. I hope you like it. Here it is, guys. James Goldman. The deer you guys have seen a lot on the internet. You've seen it on the Facebook pages. You've seen it on websites. That's him. 35 scoreable points. So James, how's life been the last week or so?
Oh man, it's been crazy. I've been working a lot actually in Canada the last 2 weeks. But I knew this deer was out there. I've known this deer was out there since the end of 2016 hunting season. So anyway, I've got some Cudlink Cudback cameras, so they've been emailing me pictures while I'm traveling, trying to even mess my sleep up while I'm gone. So anyway, but we first saw this deer. I had bought some new cameras. This was before I bought the ones that it would email you the pictures, but I'd bought some new cameras and was going to ride out to Marion. I hunt out there in a hunting club, and I was going to ride out there and set out the camera. My dad had been throwing some corn out, and he said, "Won't you just come put it out here?" He said, "I've seen some deer tracks out there where I've been throwing that corn out." So anyway, I just did it to test the camera. We had no idea it was good deer around there. So, but the first time we went and got the disc off the camera, we saw this deer on it, and he was a young deer then. I think he was about 1.5 years old, but he was a 20 points. You could count his points then. So we both got really excited. And my dad, with the generous soul he is, he knew how much deer hunting means to me, as you can kind of tell. I'm eat up with it a little bit. But anyway, he just said, "James, you need to hunt that deer." And so I started, working that way. That was the end of the season. It was about to end, and I could tell he was young too, so I wasn't really wanting to hunt him that year. So the next year, I saw him a lot. I put out a lot of feed and had him really come in, had a lot of does in the area. And I saw him a lot at night. He was there every few nights, but very seldom in the daytime. But then I went to Kansas hunting like during the gun season in Kansas, which is first week of December. And he showed up in the daytime on my camera when I was up there. So anyway, that's really the only time I've seen him in the daytime on my cameras, until like 2 or 3 other times. So I didn't get a chance at him that year, and then that would have been 2017 and to 18 season. And like the 18 and 19 season, 2018-19, this deer was a little bit different. He had a drop time. I think a lot of people have pictures of him on their deer cams, but he was really unique looking. But he broke his horns off, I'm assuming fighting with another buck sometime in November. And I've got pictures of him before and after that. He basically broke off these horns here fighting. So he wasn't that pretty a deer, and I kind of quit hunting, backed out of there and quit hunting. And then, so anyway, this year I hadn't seen him at all. Well, getting a little worried. I thought maybe he had been killed, but then he showed up about the last week of October. He showed up on my cameras, and he started being real consistent. And he started being real close to daylight hours. He would come out to the feeder right at dark, or right after dark, and then he'd stay. I'd see him again, that next morning he'd be really close. So I knew he was getting a little more, taking a few more risks for whatever reason. So I came home, it was last weekend, I came home on Friday, and I went and I had put out some rice bran. I kind of freshened all that up. My dad had foot surgery, so he hadn't really been doing anything for me. So, but I got it all freshened up, and I didn't really see much Friday evening. And my plan was to get up Saturday morning and go hunting, but I took the red eye home the night before, Thursday night, so I was really tired and I overslept. And I've never seen this deer around much in the morning, so I mainly like hunting him in the afternoon. So anyway, I went back in there Saturday afternoon, and I've never laid eyes on this deer other than my deer cam until this day. But I went in there and Soon as I climbed the tree, I started seeing a lot of does just working around, and then had a little buck come through and run the does off about a 6 point, and I heard him grunting, and I knew then, things might be good. So I sat there and just saw a lot of deer. I saw 12, 13 deer. And then it was starting to get a little dark, about 6:15, and I saw this deer coming. I just knew it was a deer at that time, but then I looked at him, and I knew he looked different than other deer, so I put my rifle on him, and my scope on him, immediately thought he was the deer I'd been hunting for so long. So he was kind of in some thick stuff, and he came out from around a tree, and I studied his horn for about 2 seconds, and I knew it was him, and I just put the scope on his shoulder and then shot him, and he didn't run far at all. Took a good shot, and here he is. So it's been a whirlwind since then.
I bet it has. I bet it has. Well, I'm glad you got him, man.
Yes, sir.
You got a lot of history with the deer.
It's been quite a deal.
You got a lot of history with him. And I know you.
I couldn't have wrote that story any better than that, in my opinion.
Right. So that's right.
Good Lord has blessed me.
That's right.
I mean, really, there's nothing that outshadows those 35 points. I mean, it's unreal. Tough score. It took me an hour and 45 minutes to score him, and it was a booger. But I enjoyed every minute of it. It was a challenge, and I learned a lot from it. Now, people ask me all the time, gee, how do you score a deer that's just that non-typical? Well, guys, as you can tell by that little blue stuff on the end, you got to have a lot of tape. You tape the points that I've already scored. As I score them, I tape them. I also take notes just like that to let me know where I'm at. You look for main beams, and then you look for typical points, and you go from there. Here's a trail camera photo. Some of the trail camera photos that James has had. This was the first one that he had the first year, and then this one came in the second year. Now, guys, that deer looks good, right? But it's not going to score as good as the one that did this year. Now, this is the deer last year. And you see that little drop off the left side there. That actually broke off, and that hurt it. But this is what we got this year, 184 5/8.